Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I'm going to say good morning to Haribo Starmix, who's not been here for a while over on Instagram. I'm back for once, but can't stay long. Back to school, I would imagine. But good morning to you. Andy Darvell is here as well. Morning, morning, morning. Very windy today again. Does that mean you're on stand down, I wonder? Ken Hatter is watching on his new iPhone 17 Pro. I bet I looked fantastic. Well, all things considered. There's Ken Hatcher saying good morning. Andy Thornton is here as well. Dan Cullen back from his weekend shopping spree, buying lots of new hats. Good morning to you, Dan, as well. Ken Hatcher saying very professional start. I don't know how. I don't know why. Really looking forward to today's show, and I've just had the wind completely knocked out of my sails. We've launched a new thing over on our Demolition Insider today. Loads of stuff going on, loads and loads of stuff going on. But literally 5-10 minutes ago, I heard that the former NFDC president, Paul Brown, has passed away. And I'm gutted, absolutely gutted. I've known Paul for, Jesus Christ, nigh on 40 years, I would imagine. I knew him when I was a plant journalist. I went from being a plant journalist to being his PR man. We co-wrote the original NFDC High Reach guidance together. An absolute larger than life character, which didn't always serve him well. I know it it could rub people up the wrong way, even though his heart was always in the right place. Just devastating news. It really is. I've not even had time to process it. I mean, I'd love to say, I'm going to do this show in honor of Paul, but I can't even think that far ahead. So I need to do something. But yeah, I can't even begin. Even if you're not in demolition circles, one of those people that can just fill a room on their own. His was always the loudest voice, the most passionate voice. I quickly jotting down some notes before I came on. I once watched Paul Brown host a charity auction. I think it was for the NFDC. I can't really remember, but he hosted a charity auction, and his shtick for the auction was somewhere between stand-up comedian and mafia boss. It was impossible to get out of that room without having parted with some money. It was like money with menaces. It really was, and it was an absolute joy to behold. Yeah, obviously, a terrible, terrible loss for his family. Terrible loss for his close friends. I know he was very close to another former NFDC president, William Sinclair. So my thoughts are with William and his family, because I know they're going to be feeling it. But he leaves such a big hole. Such a big hole. And as I say, he wasn't everyone's cup of tea. Yes, he had an unerring knack for rubbing people up the wrong way. But there were so many sides to Paul Brown. And I liked all of them. He's going to leave a huge hole. So rest in peace, Paul Brown. I'm going to get this show back on track now. I'm going to say good morning to Mark Whiting, to Jim Turner. Dan, if you popped away and you came back again, the former NFDC president, Paul Brown, old mate of mine, has passed away, sadly. Nigel Williams is here as well. Good morning, Nigel. Good of you to join us. Let's crack on, shall we? Let's I can tell you, Paul Brown wouldn't have been one to mope about the place. So I'm going to do my level best to bring this back and try and make it as cheery as I possibly can. I've got an absolute, if I say so myself, I've got an absolute belter of a morning monologue for you today. I just hope I can do it justice. So let me roll the intro and get this show on the road, shall we? It is Monday, the 27th of October. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, Kobelco meets Mr. Dig. CM Labs, where a simulation feels real, and I can vouch for that. I'll tell you more about it when we get there. We're getting up close with Caterpillar's latest graders, and we're going to go and see the rise of the robots with Gravis Robotics. We'll be doing all of that. Today's edition of the Morning Monologue is called Vantage Point. I've stolen the title. I'll be absolutely honest. Does anyone remember? I think the movie was probably late 90s. I can tell you that Dennis Quaid was in it. I can tell you that Forrest Whitaker was in it, and it was basically. I can't remember if they actually pulled it off, but there was an assassination attempt upon the U.S. president, and you saw it once and you thought, oh well, I clearly know who did that, and then you see it from another perspective and you think, oh, maybe not. You see it from another vantage point. So I've taken that as the inspiration. That will be the tone of our morning monologue today. Morning monologue today. Nigel Williams, thank you very much indeed. R.I.P. Paul Brown. Yeah. I wonder if the wider demolition community know exactly what they've lost. Dan says, can't wait. I had a better weekend than I thought. I bought 12 caps, Komatsu caps. Mrs. Mrs. wasn't happy, but had no choice. Your money, Dan. You've been out and earned it at 4 o'clock in the morning, so why the hell not? Why not treat yourself from time to time? Speaking of caps, it is that time. Let me show you. I've got a thing for this. Yeah, we've got this. Showed it to you on Friday. Got this one to give away. And I've got to tell you, it is a very smart. It's quite shiny. I know Steve Williamson described it as a Ned hat, but it's really, really good quality. That's up for grabs this morning. All you need to do is type in the word in the chat the word Epiroc. Now, to make it nice and easy, I've got it rolling across the bottom of the screen there. EPIROC, Epiroc. Jim Turner saying, haven't seen the film, but Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. Forrest Whitaker is one of those people, even if the film's crap, Forrest Whitaker is always good in it. You're absolutely right. And Dan Cullen saying, R.I.P. Paul will be missed in the industry. He most certainly will. So should we get things? Hang on a minute. I've got a funny feeling that's Ken Hatcher and predictive text not liking Epiroc. EPIROC. Dan saying, another one for my collection. Andy Darville has already entered. So while that's going on, let me do this.
T-minus 1 minute. T-minus 50 seconds. T-minus 40 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yeah, 1 in 5 chance of winning today. Just before I press the button, Nigel Williams saying, great breakers from Epiroc. They certainly are. Andy Darville likes them as well. Love Epiroc attachments, very good tools. They absolutely are. Their breakers obviously were the old Krupp breakers. I say the old, they've obviously updated them since. Excuse me. So let's find out who's won, shall we? 1 in 5 chance. We're going to start the draw now. Nigel Williams. Nigel Williams, congratulations, Mr. Williams. Let me write that down. Congratulations. Top work, Mr. Williams. You can wear that to the gym. Gary Muirhead, also suffering at the hands of predictive text. I think that was supposed to be Epiroc. It's ended up as Epitome. But good morning, Gary. You missed out this time, but don't worry, there's plenty more to come along. Gary Muirhead saying, sorry I'm late. Well done, Nigel. Yeah, well done, Nigel, from Andy Darvell as well. Yeah, all good stuff. Nigel, I will need your postal address if you would be so kind. And I'll get that in the post to you forthwith. I do have to apologise to Andy Darvell. Ran out of time over the weekend. It was one of those weekends this weekend. But I'm literally going to finish the show this morning. I'm going down to the post office, so your prize will be in the post for you then. Alex Latham is here as well. Morning, Alex. And there's Dan Cullen saying, "Well done, Nigel. Well done indeed. That's top work, Mr. Williams. You could be the proud." Bearing in mind you said how much you like the breakers and the products, seems appropriate. You should get that. Andy Darvell, very kind. Thank you very much indeed for your kind understanding. Let me take this away because we don't need that anymore. We'll come up with another prize for tomorrow. I don't know what it is, but I'll keep you posted. Nigel Williams says, "Oh my God, I really thought Dan was going to win." He often does. It has to be said. I mean, really and truly, I don't believe we should be sending Dan hats. Not because I don't want to. I mean, he's more than welcome to, but I do feel like I'm fueling his addiction. It's a bit like going out with somebody you know is going to AA and Alcoholics Anonymous and saying, just a snifter. I feel like we're doing that. Did I cost you a lot of money when you posted Neil's prize to New Zealand? Not yet, because I haven't been there yet. But I will. As I say, I'm going down to the post office at some point later this morning, and I will be doing just that. Right, let's crack on, shall we? I'm not really. I mean, we could go back over the news over the weekend, or well, on Friday, of the incident on the city centre tower block in Manchester. Although that's kind of been resolved now by a statement from PP O'Connor. You can see that over on demolitionnews.com if you're interested. We did go live on Friday afternoon just in reaction to that scaffold collapse. Turns out it was more of a building collapse that took some scaffolding down with it, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, let's crack on. We're going to skip the news part. We're going to do this instead. Right, very quickly, I'm going to go back to the chat. I just said that I am feeding Mr. Cullen's addiction. I told the computer to let someone else have it. Ha ha ha. He says, I fuel my own addiction. Nigel Williams, Mark Anthony, the cap collector's enabler. That's kind of where I am. But here is a question from Nigel. A question for viewers. What books are people reading at the moment? Now, I normally have a fiction book and a non-fiction book running side by side. I won't bore you with why. I just do. I don't actually have a non-fiction book on the go at the moment. I am currently in the midst of a book called Never Flinch by Stephen King. I'm actually running about at least one Stephen King behind. Never Flinch. Very, very good. And not a horror. Not a horror. It's more like a detective story. As I say, been very impressed with it so far. I'm about probably halfway through it. But what is everybody else watching? Gary Muirhead says, "Did you watch Gone Fishing last night? Ted was on top form." Do you know, I didn't. It's been one of those weekends. I will be watching it on catch up. And obviously, we did bump into Paul Whitehouse last week. Would have been nice to have checked in on Ted. Ted's looking quite old. I saw a clip, and Ted is looking quite old. I hope he's doing okay. Andy Darvell says, you never know what the structure of a building is going to do. Going to be like rather until you start cutting into it. I had one building in Cambridge where columns and beams weren't lining up properly. I couldn't take, and then it goes off. But the explanation that I had from there is a statement from PP O'Connor, but the explanation that I had directly from them was basically they had found a fundamental flaw in the building's construction. They had worked around that, thought they were past the worst, and then lo and behold, come Friday afternoon, it crumbled. Jim Turner says, can't read a book, can't get captured in the written word. Okay. Do you do audio books, Jim? Because I'm a big fan of those. I've got myself an Audible account. There's Gary saying I prefer an audio book. I wouldn't say I prefer. I still like I like the tactile nature of a book and the smell of a book, be it a new book which smells of ink and newness, or an old one that smells musty and gorgeous. Love all of that. But I do love an audiobook, particularly when I've got a lot of travel. I mean, I started this Never Flinch from Stephen King on the flight to America. Did a bit while I was there, did a bit on the way back. So putting a big hole in it there. Nigel Williams says, oh yes, look at those pulverizers, bucket tips on that rotating head. Great innovation to reduce the wear on the main structure. He's talking Caterpillar there, obviously. Andy Darvell finishing up his thing about high reach demolition. Couldn't take it down bay by bay as it would have collapsed. Had to take it down floor by floor, working blind with my I think that's Banksman on a cherry picker being my eyes. Not good, but got it down safe. It's not easy. Yeah, anybody that tells you demolition's easy is quite clearly never done it. Gary says you end up having so many you start to give them away. Not me. I've got a bit of an issue with that. Yeah, I've got the key books behind me, the ones that I've collected. Like most of my Stephen Kings are behind me. There's some signed books back there and stuff like that. I've got another batch upstairs. I've got another big batch in the back bedroom. I've got another batch in a lockup just up the road. I've got I am for books like Dan is for hats. That's all I can say. Morning all. Looking after the wife. She's had a new hip. Well, good luck and get well soon to Mrs. Ford. And you look after her properly, Chris. Dan, you'll have to get a big shed in the garden soon just to fill with hats. Can you imagine at some point in the future the Dan Cullen experience? Like the JCB experience where you pop up to Utoxeter and stroll through the history of JCB's products. We could do that with Dan. A stroll among Dan's hats. Yeah. Ken Hatcher saying, no books, what with Facebook and YouTube and Breakfast Show, I can't cope. I can only apologize. I tell you what though, very, very quickly, there is a Google product called Notebook LM. If you've ever listened to an episode of one of our recap shows, the podcast, so basically I take the after show chat from this show, punch it into Notebook LM, and it spits it out as a podcast. Well, that podcast or that system can also take basically anything. It can take YouTube videos, it can take websites, PDFs, documents, pretty much any kind of content. So if ever there was a book that you quite like the idea of reading but haven't got the time, or if there's something you'd like to learn about, the rings of Saturn, for example, I don't know why you would want to learn about that, but if you want to do that, you can basically drop all of that into Notebook LM, and it will give you an audio podcast of somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes. You can basically do your learning, your media absorption through your ear holes in the comfort of your own cab. Simple. So if you do feel like you would like to read more, but you can't, Google LM might be the answer. It could well be the answer. Anyway, let's have a look. Nigel Williams has been reading books on the English Civil War, started on about the true believers, about those who got caught up in the collective ideologies and might be so prevalent in this time. Food for thought, I can tell you. I bet it is. What is that expression? Those who ignore history are destined to repeat it, or something like that. There's an awful lot you can learn about the modern and the future world by looking at our history, and anything that we've had, anything that's coming down the line now, we've been there before. I mean, even in our industry, we're getting awfully excited about the rise of electric and hydrogen machines. We've been there before, not with electric and with hydrogen, but we once switched from steam to diesel. We did. We once switched from basically manual, men with an actual shovel, to equipment. We have forged new paths before. Well said. Jim Turner says, "Done that, Chris." And the missus has both. There's lots of new hips out there. Lots of new hips. And they say the lips don't lie, or is that the hips don't lie? I don't know. Andy Novell, the Watford Museum of Plant Caps. There you are. I'd visit. So long as he's put the cap on. Anyway, I've babbled on for long enough. We're going off to America. We're going to Kobelco, but we're going in the company of a man who refers to himself as Mr. Dig.
What's up, everybody? I'm Ryan, aka Mr. Dig, from Gringo Recycling in South Carolina, where we have a wood processing, mulching, and composting facility. So what we do at Gringo Recycling, we take wood waste that would be destined for the landfill, and we recycle that into either mulch or compost there at our Graniteville, South Carolina location. So some of the challenges we face on a recycling yard is, one, it's just a ton of material coming in a pretty small area. We've got big bulky stuff that we've got to deal with. All the materials mixed together. We've got to segregate that stuff out so that we can process it and turn it into a final product. So one super important thing when you're running a recycling site is uptime is very critical. And so we try to find machines that we can depend on to run optimally all day long, every day. So some things that have helped us grow over the years, because waste has just been exponential here over the past few years. We've had hurricanes come through, just lots and lots of material. So we have recently purchased a log screw through our company Rich Partners that has helped us process some of the larger stumps and logs. We have added a magnet into our C&D landfill so that we can extract metals to help us better recycle that. So we started out with the SK210 a good many years ago, and it's kind of an unsung hero there at our recycling center because, well, it just runs every day. It never breaks down, so we don't talk about it a lot. So due to that fact, we just purchased a brand new SK210, and that helps us to feed our big wood grinders, as well as we run the log screw on that to help process the large wood material that comes in. And so we have a myriad of different brands of equipment, but what it really comes down to, you can buy any piece of equipment you want, but if you don't have the support that goes along with that when you do have something fail, then that is critical. And Company Rich, as well as Kobelco, have been awesome at keeping our uptime up. So one thing we found out with Kobelco is they really care about the operator. Me, coming from an operator background, having to spend 10 hours in a machine every day is tough, but the creature comforts inside our excavators make it a breeze, and a comfortable employee is a productive employee. So today we're down here in beautiful Hockley, Texas at Kobelco's ranch, getting ready to play on some of their equipment like this big 520 you see behind me, and we're going to play in some of this Texas clay.
Welcome back. Sorry if there was any interruptions in that. My screen went a bit squiffy while that was going on. Don't know what happened there. Jim Turner, going back to my thoughts on electric and hydrogen and steam and mechanisation and stuff. But none of that was force changed. It caught on because masses adopted it as the norm because it worked better for them. Fair comment. It is a fair comment. Going back to Mrs. Ford, the complete left side. I've just installed her in the barn conversion as the bedrooms are downstairs. The upstairs isn't finished yet, so I'm back and forwards from the house. You have listen. Don't bother to explain your absence. Go and take care of your other half. That's far more important. Dan Cullen saying, in the middle of reading The Art of Thinking Clearly, I must finish How to Kill a Mockingbird. One of my favourites, How to Kill a Mockingbird, and have one to be How to Be the Perfect Gentleman, and one on the history of Ireland. An avid reader is our man Dan. My eldest daughter Georgia. Never the most studious of children. Never, homework was, unless it was at the point of a gun, would never do homework. Never much of a reader. Well, she's got the bug, and she's got into kind of fantasy fiction. I don't know any of the authors. Not really my subject matter. But so far this year, bearing in mind it is only October, she's put 70 books to bed this year, and some of them are like, War and Peace style. 70 books. My personal belief is she has far too much time on her hands, but that's a whole other story. Jim says, my missus started moaning I wasn't doing things her way. Why would I? I do my things my own way. After a couple of days, so she got up and started doing it all herself. Saved me a job. Ever the empath. Ever the empath. Dan Cullen, wow, good for her. Yeah, I have to say, I set myself a target once of reading 50 books in a year, and I fell short. I actually did 48. They were quite big, I had a fair crack at it, but I only managed 48. She's done 70 by October. Yeah. We're going back to Utility Expo in just a moment with a company I can tell you a bit more about because I know them. Back after
If
this.
you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Now, it's been a while since I've been on an excavator simulator. Been quite a while, actually. But I went on one at the Utility Expo with a company called CM Labs. I'll show it to you in just a moment. But one of the things that surprised me, and maybe it shouldn't surprise me, maybe it's just because I don't spend any time on simulators. Driving the excavator, and they've plugged it into the seat, so the seat moves and you get a bit of motion and everything else. You feel kind of a haptic feel through the joysticks. You get all of that. But while I was driving it, I approached a ramp, and rather than approaching it kind of square head on, I approached it kind of at an angle and actually felt the machine. There was no machine. It's a simulator, but actually felt kind of a. You would have been better off going it that straight. It was kind of a really impressive, really impressive. I'll let my mate Devon tell you all about it. This is CM Labs.
CM Labs is a training simulation solution company, and so we create solutions to help people understand how to use heavy equipment. Excavators and dozers to cranes and lifting equipment. For the most part, it is a training tool, but can also be used as a recruitment tool depending on the organization. So oftentimes people will find that, for example, if you showcase this type of equipment to people who've never been introduced to it before, what better tool than to bring a virtual piece of equipment into the classroom or into the gymnasium, for example, and have students sit on it for a couple of minutes and just experience what it's like. Effectively, if you're a younger person coming in and you have experience with computer games, you're going to be able to learn how to use it right away. And what it actually does is it makes that connection between the real world equipment and a career path, and perhaps the skills and aptitudes you've already developed organically. So we really value the fact that we're using engineering grade tools to build the simulation on top of, which is very valuable to us and our customers. CM Labs really started more as an engineering company, let's say back in the early 2000s. And so it kind of evolved from engineering grade physics simulation and digital twinning to creating products to help train for heavy equipment operation. The genesis of all this equipment is engineering-based simulation with our in-house built physics engine. It's especially realistic with the motion platform, and it'll kind of move in reaction the same way the machine would do. And so if you have an excavator and you're hitting rocks or picking up loads, you can feel it moving around. So it's very realistic and quite engaging as well. If you're dealing with experienced operators, retraining comes in because people will say you need to unlearn any bad habits you may have acquired over several years of operations. And also the other thing that you can do is if, for example, the operational environment in which you're operating is going to be a little bit different, you're going to be doing something a little bit special, and there might be some techniques that you need to really hone in on, something that you haven't done so often in the past, or less common techniques, this is a great opportunity to try that out in a virtual safe environment and see how you would manage it. Wherever we operate and sell simulators, we've noticed there's definitely a shortage of manpower and of skills. So you have people who maybe in the industry don't have the correct skills, and so simulation training can really help them try that out. It's like a risk-free way to try out a new piece of equipment and see if you have the aptitudes to use it, for example. For more information, you can go to our website at cmlab.com, for example. It's probably the best place, and to get a lot more info, we're also active on LinkedIn and social media, and we like to post about our simulators all the time.
Come back to Jim Turner in just a moment. Chris Ford is just going off to tend to his lady wife. But here from, who is this one? It's Dan Cullen. Interesting, but my belief is to get them out on site and do a walk around with the kids, let them sit in the machine as its reality is better than a computer screen. All true. But you know full well, and it's the same in the States, although the States are much more open when it comes to exhibitions and things like that. They have the same restrictions on site as well. I think as an inspirational tool, and bearing in mind, I mean, there's one version of that where you can actually operate it using what is effectively a Sony PlayStation control to give a young kid, you know, maybe only 8 or 9, that first feel. I don't think that's a bad idea. And I have to say, one of the things that I really picked up on that was this idea of refresher training. You know, if there's changes in procedures, changes to a machine, maybe there's a need to address excessive fuel consumption and that kind of thing. You know, rather than taking somebody to one side, putting them on a machine in a dark corner of a site somewhere, put them in a classroom with one of those, you know, and actually let them score themselves and see how they might make improvements. I have to say, I was mightily impressed with the CM Lab stand. We're planning to get them on an evening show, so you'll be able to address all of these things with them directly at some point in the not too distant future, hopefully. Let's have a look. Jim's offering advice. Chris, watch what painkillers they've given her. My missus was fine with the first tip on tablets. Then the second one, they gave her liquid pain relief, and it turned her into a right twat. Wow. How have you stayed married this long? That's the question I think on everyone's lips. 2 very special guests over on Instagram. Mr. Neil Edwards has just joined us, as have Mekalak. Good morning to Neil Edwards. We miss you. And bonjour to Mekalak, if it's the French end. If it's the American end, hi. But good day. Andy Darvell says, never been on a sim like that. Would love to have a go and see how real it feels. To my mind, felt very real. Listen, you know, you don't have quite the same expo. Yeah, you will be able to tell. You would be able to tell, but it is remarkably immersive to the point where, as I say, when I went up a ramp slightly off center, immediately it was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I actually felt the pang of not danger, perhaps, but the pang of screwed up. Good for that, I would say. Jim Turner gobbing off 1 minute, then crying her eyes out the next. Told us to ring through and get different pain relief. Was sound after that. The lesson for this morning, obviously, is if ever you find yourself in need of medical assistance or sympathy, Jim's probably not your man. Better to give a kid a real machine to play on. They pick it up quickly. I know the good sense of it. I do. I really do. And I'm not entirely in disagreement with you, but given the regulations, given the health and safety police and so on, not quite as straightforward. Mike Wolf, good morning, Mr. Wolf. I've used a few machine simulators over the years. I've tried one from CM Labs at a show, various others. Last week at the Liebherr dozer plant in Telfs, Austria, I had the chance to use a 10-star one developed with Liebherr. I drove an ADT and it was interesting. Certainly had a lot of feel of the machine. Good point, Mike. I drove a dozer on. I didn't. I drove a dozer on the Liebherr stand at Mine Expo. The dozer wasn't actually there; it was somewhere else. But again, it felt very, very realistic, and I have to say, I might have been impressed with it. Andy Thornton says, even these simulators aren't a new thing. I once had an opportunity to try out a 1940s Spitfire flight simulator. I bet that was terrifying. Jim Turner. I did wonder how he'd stayed married. Well, apparently he hadn't, because he's remarried and married. Sorry, Mark, seeing you in 55 inches 4K shows where you've missed on your morning treatments. Did you use a blunt razor? I did, yeah. Back when I was a teenager or a gadabout, in my early 20s when I was going out in pursuit of the opposite sex. You ever remember that? Like, looking forward to the Friday night and your hair wouldn't go right. Or worse still, you had your outfit planned, your hair's just gone just right, you've got your best aftershave on, and then you get a spot on the end of your nose. Remember that? Well, on Saturday, we were going to a party. But, not that I was on the pool. I took my wife with me. I'd already pooled, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, getting ready for it, I thought, well, might as well have a bit of a shave before we go. Lopped me chin off. Yeah. Not the plan. Jim Turner says, anytime she moans about me, I ask her if she wants a divorce. She says no, and I stop moaning then. Come to the Breakfast Show for marriage advice. It might be only short-term marriage advice, but there you are. It's wonderful they don't get schools to go to Digger World and let the kids get on them. True. At least you've not got the regulation bit of tissue on your cut. I haven't now. I did have on Saturday. Hang on a minute. I was just going to go and play a video, but used to dress like Michael Knight. Did you? Did you? I'm not sure I would have admitted that publicly, but well done. We're talking cat graders in a moment. Back after.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, we do have a bit more technology to come after this film, but first of all, let's go, cat graders.
Good day, my name is Benny Burger. I'm the Senior Plant Manager of Aerobics Construction in South Africa.
My name is Tulani Ndawa Petris. I'm a final level operator of motor grader. I'm working for Aerobics Construction in South Africa.
Our company has big projects all over South Africa. Caterpillar machine in our fleet is about 100 machines. In our Aerobics Construction division, we have 18 motor graders.
My main application of motor grader is to mixing the material and flattening, spreading and finishing cutting levels of the road. I firstly operated 120G of CAT and 140G, 140H and 140K up to so far.
The productivity and efficiency is very good on the machine, and the big thing of that is the fuel consumption. So if you can just on the saving on the fuel, we did calculate that to a month, there's a big saving and the productivity is very, very high.
My overall impression on this machine is the cab is wide open for me and the levers are soft to operate. It's very easy to see the moldboard when you sit into the chair in the cab. Even when I see the stone in the surface, it is much easier for me to see it and to shift it with the moldboard.
My impression of the grader is very good, especially on the transmission side with the park brake that they remove from inside. That's a big positive for us. From the operator that will also give his info, the cab is very good, so you can split the machine very easily. The visibility out of the cab is much better than on the older machine.
The machine does not have a lot of noise. And the reverse camera, number one for me, for safety of the side, so that I cannot make anyone injured while I don't see it. The gear lever of this machine is very easy to drive with it and to shift the gears up and down. And the reverse is very soft. The new chair, I like it the most because my back, I can control it. I can control even to be high or low, even to shift it. It's easy to do it.
On the service side, it saves a lot of time. It's more service friendly, then you don't have to work under the machine. You can stand to do it on top. The support and the part supply is very good. The online system, with that we don't have any problems with the support. As you can see, if we have a problem, we can just call the technician or send the email, and the next day the guys is on site. On the improvement is on the machine, the big thing also is the reversible fan at the radiator, and also the accessibility. All the covers you can take off very easily to the radiator, the coolers, the batteries is very accessible.
Inspect the machine is very much easier to me. To check the machine, to inspect the machine. It's saving a lot of time for me so that I can get enough time to do the production for the company. I'm comfort. I feel free when I'm done with my duties.
On this stage, we will not buy any other graders. We are very pleased with the machine. The durability is very good. Overall, we're all happy with the machine now.
I could never speak South African because I can't roll my R's. Nigel Williams says, great machines. Just wish I could get more seat time, but I'll make do as best I can with the odd days here and there. Andy Darvell in equal admiration of the cat graders. Proper machines, them. Always loved the look of them, kind of like a praying mantis. Would love a crack on a grader one day. Andy Thornton says, my dad was South African. You've got to appreciate how they can make each word sound like a sentence and separate from every other word. They do, don't they? Yeah. Mother was from Littlehampton and had the most English of accents. You can imagine growing up with both these role models meant I sounded like I was from the royal family. I think we need to get you on the show, actually, Andy, to hear that. Peter McKenna says, no, we'll not do that one. We're going to go back. Oh, it's all gone squiffy. Not good. Nigel Williams, here we are. A point to note is that CAT have made the articulation of the machine a subscription service, much like the lever tracking on the bigger track hose. Have they? Have they now? That's an interesting development. I need to know more about that. I'm going to go and have a bit of a dig around of that. Now, we've got one more thing to play you, which is all high-tech again. We'll be back after this. And then it's going to be morning monologue time, and I shall do my best to deliver it with the theatrics that it deserves. Back after this. Just going to go back quickly to Marriage Guidance 101 from Mr. Jim Turner. He says, she got so wound up the other week, she said, yes, she did want a divorce. I said, sound. When she calmed down, I got a text saying, I don't want to split up. Sorry. She knows there's nothing and no one I won't bin off if they become a pain. And Peter McKenna chimes in with, she knows your big hands can make us smile more than little hands can. I'm not even going to go there. We've got one final film for you, and it does feature a company called Gravis Robotics. I'll leave you to guess what they do. Right, Peter McKenna saying that's one hell of a well thought out edit, fantastic video. I totally agree. Andy Dalvell saying those spider diggers are mental machines, literally go anywhere. Very quickly on that, we met a guy at Utility Expo who was driving a Menzie Muck on the Rock Zone stand. I'm going to be doing an interview with him on, I think it's Sunday next week. Completely out of hours. I will be bringing it to you. Excuse me. But this guy basically works completely alone on top of mountains in places like Colorado, building ski lifts and that kind of thing. And he's often 200 feet up off a cliff face, working on his own. To make things even more interesting, he has to hike because you can't, it's inaccessible. He basically has to hike up the path to the machine, sometimes more than an hour, carrying the diesel. Absolutely true. Nigel says, if it's marriage advice corner, my girlfriend and I live in separate houses and see each other every other weekend. 3 texts a day sometimes, and it's brilliant. Was it? It was. Tim Burton and Helena Bonham Carter were married for years, probably 20 plus years, lived next door to each other. Yeah. No, Ruth, I don't want to do it. Nigel Williams, the Menzie Muck spiders are fantastic. They really are. One of the things that Kevin, this guy that I'm going to interview, told me, I don't know how many functions you've got in your hands at the moment on your various joysticks and levers and everything else, but he has 22 functions in each hand. I actually said to him, it must be that thing, you know, rubbing your stomach and patting yourself on the head. 22 functions in one hand. Yeah. Anyway, that's about it for the main part of today's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping over into my morning monologue, which, as I've already said, excuse me, it was inspired by the 90s movie Vantage Point, and basically it's a single thing seen from different perspectives. It will make sense when we get there, I promise. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Hope to see you going very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back with the morning monologue after this. Our story starts with the client. The morning sun pours through the glass of the 13th floor boardroom, bouncing off brushed steel and lending a golden light that spreads slowly across the muted tones of the plush, expensive carpet. A man gazes down at the city below, a hands-free telephone headset on his head. He paces and gesticulates with the confidence of a man who believes everything is under his direct control. He's half listening to the project update, half reading an email about a forthcoming golf day. The demolition is the last obstacle before construction can begin. An inconvenience, an obstacle to be overcome before the big payday. Everything's running smoothly, yes? Excuse me. Everything's running smoothly, yes, he says into his headset, pacing the room with a coffee that's gone cold. It's not a question, it's a statement. The voice on the other end, the site supervisor, sounds tired but eager to please. Yep, on schedule. Structure's nearly down, should be clear by this weekend. Man nods, satisfied. Excellent. We'll keep the pressure on. Don't forget, we need photos for Monday's newsletter. He doesn't notice the hesitation before the reply. He tells himself he's helping, that his calls, his drive, his urgencies are all good signs of leadership. He's not unreasonable, he just doesn't tolerate complacency. The phrase safety first is one he's used in presentations, PowerPoints and pre-qualification meetings. He believes in it, in principle, but in practice, deadlines pay bills, not safety briefings. Through the phone, faintly he hears machinery, the rhythmic grind of steel and concrete, the bleep of a reversing excavator. There's a shout in the distance, brief, indistinct. He doesn't even register it. He's already moved on to another email. Glad to hear everything's running smoothly, he says, ending the call with a satisfied smile. Outside his window, a crane moves slowly across the side. Outside his window, a crane moves slowly across the skyline. He admires it, not realizing that just a few miles away, one of his own machines just made a move that will replay in other people's heads for the rest of their lives. The supervisor. The site office is a mess. Coffee rings, dog-eared paperwork, risk assessments waiting for signatures. The phone vibrates again before the supervisor can even sit down. It's the same number. He exhales through his nose and answers, "Morning? Yep, we're progressing. Yep, I'll send more photos in an hour. Yep, I'll tell the lads to push on." He hangs up and rubs his eyes. The paperwork never ends. There's a safety checklist due for filing, an environmental report, a RAMS update for a structure that will be dust by tomorrow. Half of it is duplication, but someone somewhere insists on it. And non-compliance means delay, and delay means another call from upstairs. Outside, engines rumble. The air pulses with movement. He remembers the toolbox talk from that morning. Brief, rushed. The young operator had been keen, almost overeager. "You sure you're ready to go solo?" the supervisor had asked. The answer was a confident yes. The lad even brandished his competence card by way of punctuation. They were a man short. The supervisor had no choice. He told himself it would be okay. Besides, he needed to tick off that paperwork. He needed the client off his back. The veteran. From inside his cab, the site looks calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that always seems to come before someone does something stupid. He's seen it 1,000 times. The rush, the shortcuts, the young lads brimming with misplaced confidence, being thrown in before they're ready, because it's only a small job. He warned them yesterday about that slab, how it wasn't stable, how they needed to be vigilant. He told the supervisor. The supervisor nodded, but was already halfway through a phone call. He flicks cigarette ash out the window and watches the rookie in the newer machine. The kid's clearly got some skills, but he's pushing too hard, slewing too fast, overreaching, too eager to please. The older operator keys his radio. "Easy there, lad," he says. "Take it steady." No response, just static. He sees the slab tilt slightly, a momentary shimmer of movement where there shouldn't be any. He bolts forward. Stop, he yells. Stop, he yells, though the cab glass swallows the sound. And then it happens. Quick, silent at first, like a breath being held. The slab shifts, the machine slides. Metal shrieks and dust erupts. The kid shouts, the same shout that others heard as background noise. The old operator is out of his cab before he knows it. Boots thudding, lungs burning. The machine's lying on its side, still idling. He reaches the cab, sees movement. The rookie, slumped but conscious, blood on his temple, shock in his eyes. He grabs the radio. Ambulance! Get an ambulance, now! His voice shakes. He's angry. Angry at them, angry at himself, angry at all of it. He looks up and sees the supervisor running over, hard hat askew, white as chalk. I told you, the operator says, voice low, almost calm. I told you this would happen. The supervisor says nothing. The rookie. The young operator had woken that morning, nervous but excited. His first day operating solo. He texted his girlfriend a photo of the machine, clean and orange in the morning light. Big day today. Wish me luck. The supervisor had smiled at him earlier. You've got this. Just take it steady, keep it safe. He'd nodded, pretending to be calm, his heart hammering in his chest. Now, inside the cab, the world feels smaller than usual. Every sound is amplified. The hydraulic hiss, the hum of the engine, the chatter on the radio. He keeps checking the mirrors, checking the controls, trying to remember everything his mentor had told him. The slab looks stable enough. He's done this before, just never alone. He tracks forward. Take it easy, someone says over the radio. The older operator, maybe. He barely hears it, because suddenly there's movement. He feels it before he sees it. The slab trembles beneath him. His machine lurches. The cab jerks sideways. He hears himself shout, or maybe it's someone else. The world tilts and then stops. He's still breathing. He tastes metal, hears voices muffled and distant. A face appears at the cab window, the older operator shouting words he can't quite make out. Someone says, "You're all right, mate, stay with me." He tries to smile. "Did I screw it up?" he murmurs, but no one answers. The world blurs. After. The site is still. Dust drifts in slow motion. The machine stands silent, their engines cooling in the wind. The ambulance door slams shut. The rookie is on his way to hospital. Excuse me. He'll be fine in a day or two, but his pride hurts almost as much as his head. The veteran sits on the track of his machine, hard hat off, staring at nothing in particular. He lights another cigarette and mutters, "I told them." The supervisor leans against the fence, phone in hand, staring at the screen but not really seeing it. He's trying to find words. What to say, who to call first, how to explain what shouldn't need explaining. His stomach churns. He's thinking about the paperwork he still has to do, the forms, the reports, the photographs. The accident hasn't even happened officially until all the right boxes are ticked. Miles away in that glass office, the client is on a call. "Yes, I heard. Non-fatal, thank God. We'll get it wrapped up quickly enough. The next project's already behind." Back on site, the wind picks up, scattering paper and dust across the empty yard. A high-vis vest flaps on the blimey. A high-vis vest flaps on the fence, caught on a nail. The air still smells of diesel and earth. The veteran takes one last drag and crushes the cigarette under the heel of his boot. The supervisor kneels beside the track marks, staring at the faint scratch marks in the concrete that lead to the rookie's stricken machine. He stands still, listening to the traffic outside. The official report will take weeks. It will list contributing factors, miscommunication, inadequate supervision, pressure to meet deadlines. It will use the word incident instead of accident. There'll be meetings, statements, reviews, lessons learned, training sessions will be held, new procedures will be drafted. And when it's all said and done, the same conversations will start again. How long will the next job take? Can we bring it forward? Can we do it cheaper? No one will mention the shout that echoed across the site. No one will question the moment the slab buckled. No one will ask what pressure does to people when they're told, just get it done. The young man lies in a hospital bed, arm in a sling, head bandaged. He doesn't remember much. He keeps apologising. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess it up. The older operator sits by the bed in silence. He doesn't say, I told you so, but the words hang between them like dust in the air. The supervisor stays late, rewriting his statement for the 4th time, wondering how many small decisions it takes to make a big mistake. Meanwhile, the client signs another contract. New demolition, new unrealistic deadline, new promises. And the cycle starts again. There you go, Vantage Point. Wish I didn't have a cough. Wish I didn't have a scratchy nose, but there you are. Can this be made into a short film through AI? Yes, it probably could, actually. But yes, not sure I've got the capability to do that. I quite like the imagery that I used for it. If you see this over on YouTube or on LinkedIn a bit later in the day, you'll see I've got like 4 frames. You'll get the idea. Dan Cullen, never moved in with a woman, always kept my distance Monday to Friday. Andy Thornton says, that was excellent, Mark. I'm sure you know this is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Those who don't have the experience don't know what they don't know and the pressure of deadlines. I've never heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect. I am going to research it, probably using Notebook LM in just a few moments. Dan Cullen saying, a great monologue, a lot of very good points. Do you remember there used to be a show on the BBC? Was it called Back to the Floor? Where they would take one I remember very, very well. There was a guy called Tony Pidgley. I think he was the CEO or the managing director or the owner of Berkeley Homes. And he'd grown up as a house builder, and he'd risen through the ranks to the point where he was now basically in a boardroom. And this TV show basically put him back on site, and it was a bit of a wake-up call. I think it was a reminder of how tough it is out on site and what those on site actually feel about the work, the work environment, the people they work with, the people they work for, and everything else. I wonder. I know there are companies in the demolition industry certainly that have stand-down days where they get together and chew the fat and go over improvements and stuff. I wonder about that notion of putting people back out. Some of the demolition contractors that I respect the most, you put them on an excavator, they're pretty bloody good. They really are. They've been there, done that, and they've got the T-shirt to prove it. But I wonder, I think muscle memory would probably remind you how to work the joysticks and everything else like that. I wonder how much of the environment stays with you. Once you start taking your lunch in the Michelin star restaurant as opposed to the greasy spoon up the road from the site, I wonder how far removed you become, and I wonder how much you will recollect that. Just how much insight you have into the working day of a working man or woman on the site. I'd love to see that. I think that would make a bloody good film as well. Back to basics. Take somebody from the upper echelons of the demolition or construction industry, put them on site for a week and see how they fare. As I say, a lot of them have risen through the ranks, and it's I'm sure they would feel quite at home, but I think it would also be a bit of an eye-opener as well. Nigel Williams says, I listened to that with my eyes closed and visualised your spoken words. Very interesting how we can visualise words and situations. It's basically what I do for a living. It is. But thank you for that, Nigel. Yeah, I have to say, with that one, and I don't normally do this, there's a bit of me that wonders whether I might just put that through an AI and get somebody else to read those words without all my slips and trips and stuff. I think that one would probably work better. Probably put a bit of atmospheric music behind it. May do that, just by way of a change. Dan Cullen, a great monologue, lots of very good points. Thank you very much indeed. People, I'm going to go and make a few phone calls. Obviously, still reeling from the news about Paul Brown. I also need to get the post office because I owe a few people some prizes. Nigel, don't forget to let me have your postal address because I need to get your Epiroc hat off to you, which I know you will wear with pride. It's I don't know, funny old day. As I say, I was genuinely looking forward to starting work today. We've got a new thing that we're doing over on our Demolition Insider. There is a big influx of work headed towards the demolition industry, and I've written about it, and I was excited to share it. Excited to share the Vantage Point. And literally 5-10 minutes before I was due to go on air, I heard the terrible news about Paul Brown, and it really has knocked the wind out of my sails. So I'm not going to stick around today, people. There will be a recap. It may be a little bit later than usual. I will get around to doing it. But until tomorrow, everybody, do look after yourselves. I mean, by the sound of it, Paul died of an illness, not through an accident or anything like that. But either way, do look after yourselves. Look after those around you. And Andy Thornton says, all the best, everyone. Yeah, best I can say. All the best, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully a bit more cheery. Till then, everybody, have a good day.